The night began with the kind of applause that shakes the walls, the kind that makes the whole room vibrate with energy. Hollywood lights shimmered across the stage as the audience welcomed a lineup that felt like a time capsule bursting open. The moment had a nostalgic glow, a celebration of the past wrapped up in the absurdity of the present, all led by a host who seemed determined to drag everyone back into the magic of the 80s, whether they were ready or not. He stepped out with a grin, joking that 2025 felt like a cosmic prank, and that maybe, just maybe, it was time to hop back into a certain movie car with gull-wing doors and neon lights. Back to a world where every song had a sax solo, every movie had a montage, and leg warmers looked like the height of fashion. For him, the 80s weren't just a decade. They were an entire mood, a way of life. A warm, soft-focused memory where nobody's legs were ever cold and every dream felt just one funky dance number away. And then out came his first guest, walking in like a vintage poster had come to life. He held a mysterious retro workout gadget, one of those strange contraptions 80s fitness gurus used to pretend would magically transform you into a superhero. Tequila, he joked, did have to work anyway. The crowd laughed, cheering as if they'd been personally transported back into a time of neon sweatbands and cassette tapes. He wasn't alone. Another legend followed, and suddenly the room was filled with icons. Actors, fighters, musicians, all wrapped in nostalgia. The house band struck up a tune that sounded like it should have been blasting out of a Camaro driving down Sunset Boulevard in 1984. The mood was electric, like everyone had collectively stepped onto the set of an old-school late-night show, complete with sharp suits, throwback jokes, and the dry charm that made that era irresistibly cool. The host leaned into the bit completely. He delivered jokes as if he were channeling a past generation, pulling out punchlines from decades-old headlines. Stories from 1980, 1982, 1983, all brought back with a comedic twist. A movie reveal from a galaxy far, far away. A warning about video games being dangerous for your health, delivered while he imagined someone attacking strangers with Donkey Kong barrels. And old television lineups that aged like forgotten milk in the sun. Every joke landed with a wink, inviting the audience to remember how strange, unpredictable, and ridiculously entertaining the 80s truly were. But then, as the jokes shifted into the present, everything snapped back to the chaotic world of modern politics. There was no hiding the eye-rolling frustration, the absurdity of shutdowns, negotiations, promises made and broken, and the familiar circus of headlines that make the world feel like an endless loop of déjà vu. He teased, he roasted, he exaggerated with dramatic flair. He compared politicians to stubborn parents, to cartoon characters, to people who fold faster than bad poker players. The crowd laughed, groaned, and clapped because sometimes humor is the only way to swallow the insanity. Meanwhile, a certain former president popped up throughout the monologue like a recurring character in a sitcom. Rants, posts, boasts, complaints. He covered everything from beef prices to stadium naming rights. The host poked fun at his football knowledge, questioning how someone could own a football team and still sound like they'd learned the rules from a cereal box. Old photos appeared, old stories resurfaced, old controversies were dusted off and held up to the light, all delivered with comedic roasting so sharp it almost glittered. He joked about flyovers, missteps, pardons, mishaps, and magnets. Yes, even magnets. Because apparently, in the grand list of global concerns, magnets had become an unexpected centerpiece of conversation. The host couldn't resist, poking fun at the idea that humanity had somehow forgotten what magnets were, even though most refrigerators were practically held together by them. With every punchline, the audience burst into laughter. But beneath the absurdity were real issues. Families struggling with food shortages, flights canceled, military workers suffering through financial hardship. He highlighted those moments with sincerity, using humor to spotlight the truth without drowning the room in gloom. He encouraged viewers to help, to give, to care, reminding everyone that even in chaos, compassion still matters. And then the tone shifted again, pulling back into pure entertainment. With 80s Week in full swing, he dug up an old public service announcement, a relic from a time when everything was slightly over the top, wonderfully cheesy, and wildly earnest. The video played like a fever dream from a forgotten VHS tape. Dramatic warnings, exaggerated acting, outdated slang, and a moral message that aged about as gracefully as a banana left in a car. Even the robot joke made its comeback, creating the perfect blend of nostalgia and silliness. Watching it felt like flipping through a forgotten scrapbook, equal parts hilarious and heartwarming. A reminder that the past wasn't perfect, but it sure had personality. Big hair, big ideas, big outfits, big feelings. And somehow, in recreating the vibe, the show became more than a comedy segment. It became a tribute. By the end of the night, everything had come together. The nostalgia, the jokes, the frustration, the warmth, the music, the memories. It felt like a roller coaster ride through time, grounded in humor but filled with heart. A reminder that despite everything happening in the world today, laughter is still powerful, connection is still necessary, and a little bit of 80s magic might be exactly what people need. And with that, the story comes to a close, full of nostalgia, humor, romance, and a spark of excitement that lingers even after the applause fades.